Need a hand with Italian grammar? I've got you. Today I'm going to cover 6 tips to streamline your learning and get fluent fast. And yes, we will be quizzing you along the way, so make sure to pay attention. Use modal verbs instead of verb conjugations. Modal verb in Italian are awesome. They help you express a lot of different ideas without having the need to learn a bunch of verb conjugations. The modal verbs in Italian are potere, dovere, volere, sapere. Once you have the conjugated modal verb, simply add the infinitive of the verb you want and you're done. No tricky conjugations required. For example, devi andare a scuola domani. You have to go to school tomorrow. Imagine that you want to say these 3 different phrases in Italian. I work on Monday, you go to Italian class on Tuesday, and we play soccer on Friday. This right here requires 3 different verbs with different conjugations. But if we use the modal verb dovere, have to, before the main verb instead, we only need to conjugate the modal verb and we can leave the others in the infinitive. Devo lavorare lunedì. I have to work on Monday. Devi andare a lezione di italiano martedì. You have to go to Italian lessons on Tuesday. Dobbiamo giocare a calcio venerdì. We have to play soccer on Friday. If you master these 6 verbs, you'll save yourself from having to conjugate 100 more. Ask questions by just changing your tone of voice. What do questions look like in Italian? They actually look just like positive and negative phrases. The way you ask a question in Italian is simply by changing the tone of your voice so it rises at the end of a sentence. Here are some examples. Posso avere un caffè? Can I have a coffee? Devo andare con lui? Do I have to go with him? È già partito il tuo aereo? Has your plane already left? Your tone can say a lot. For the first example, if you don't change your tone, the phrase will mean your plane has already left, which could be very confusing. Quiz number 1. How could you change this sentence using a modal verb? Viene con noi. He comes with us. Lui devono venire con noi. Lui sa venire con noi. Lui vuole venire con noi. Right answer, number 3. Lui vuole venire con noi. He wants to come with us. Don't worry about possessive adjectives. In Italian, possessive adjectives like my or your aren't used like they are in English. You just use definite articles instead. For example, in English you would say, you have to bring your Italian dictionary for the exam. Well, in Italian you only need to say, dovete portare il dizionario di italiano per l'esame. You have to bring the Italian dictionary for the exam. Or, the dog played with its ball, which in Italian would more simply be il cane giocava con la palla. The dog played with the ball. All you need is the definite articles il, lo, la, I, gli, le. By the way, all of this vocabulary is available in a free PDF down below. Focus on verb endings rather than pronouns. Pronouns got you mixed up? Don't worry about it. Because Italian verb endings change for each person, subject pronouns can be dropped. Let's take the verb parlare, to speak. The translation of I speak is io parlo. The translation of you speak is tu parli. See how the verb endings change according to the person? Because the verb ending already indicates the person, you can simply translate I speak to parlo and you speak to parli. Here is the conjugation of the verb parlare, to speak, in the present tense. This is incredibly common in conversational Italian. For example, in this scene, instead of saying perché io lavoro a Roma, he says perché lavoro a Roma. The only issue with this is that you cannot find conversational Italian in traditional textbooks. Instead, you need to go look for authentic content like movies, videos, songs. But of course, these come with their own problems because real Italian speakers speak really fast and often use slang, which makes it very hard to understand. That's why I recommend to use a third-party app just like FluentU. In FluentU, you can find all sorts of videos like this that have interactive subtitles so you can quickly get a grasp on how Italian is actually spoken in the real world. Just watch a video and whenever you come across a word you don't know, click on it for a full definition and other examples so you can understand it fully and confidently use it later. It also features personalized quizzes and flashcards so these words go straight to your long-term memory. To start learning authentic Italian, check out the link in the description below and start your free trial. Use the continuous form for a simplified present tense. Verb tenses in Italian can be quite tricky, but there are ways to make your life easier. To say what you're doing right now, just use the continuous form in Italian. You can also use the present tense for this, but the continuous form is way easier because it employs an auxiliary verb, and so cutting down on conjugation just like we did in the shortcut number 1. The continuous form is made by combining the verb stare, to stay or to be, and the gerund of another verb. For example, sto mangiando un panino. I am eating a sandwich. Once you know how to conjugate stare and add gerunds, you can communicate with the continuous form using all the verbs in the language. But what about gerunds? Gerunds are formed by cutting the last 3 letters are, ere, ire of an infinitive verb and replacing them with ando for verbs ending in are and endo for verbs ending in ere and ire. So, guardare, guardando, vincere, vincendo, dormire, dormendo. If we put together stare and the gerund, we will be able to make sentences just like this one. Stiamo guardando un film. We're watching a movie. Stanno vincendo la partita. They're winning the game. Sta dormendo sul tuo letto. He or she is sleeping on your bed. Quiz number 2. Noi finiamo alle 20 domani sera is the extended version of which of the following? Finite alle 20 domani sera, finiamo alle 20 domani sera, finisce alle 20 domani sera. The right answer is number 2, so we simply eliminate the pronoun noi, we. Look for verbs of movement in the past tense. One of the toughest parts of learning how to make the past tense in Italian is figuring out when to use the verb avere, to have, and when to use to be, essere, in your sentence. Here are a couple examples. Ho rotto la porta. I broke the door. Ho is the first person form of avere, to have. Sono andata a teatro. I went to the theater. Sono is the first person form of the verb essere, to be. So how do we know which verbs form the past tense with avere and which use essere? Well, one trick is to remember that verbs of movement usually use essere, to be. If we look at these examples, we'll see how the verb rompere, to break, does not describe movement. So it's conjugated with avere, to have. Meanwhile, andare, to go, is a verb that implies movement, so it is conjugated with essere, to be. Some common verbs that use essere to form the past tense are andare, partire, uscire, entrare. These, of course, are just some of the shortcuts that you can use in your Italian journey. Don't be afraid to experiment and try new things. Everyone's learning journey is different. Maybe your learning journey is still in its early stages. If so, check out this video to master Italian verb conjugations. Thanks for watching and happy language learning!